And I believe we are now live streaming. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming again on a Wednesday night. That's all right. Recording in progress. Thank you for coming again here with us on Torah for the Nations YouTube channel and B'nai Noach Connection with Israel Facebook page. As I always try to say, sometimes I forget saying it, but Terry and I feel so blessed that Rabbi Pesach Sherbo has actually invited us to come in and asked us to help him on the Wednesday night. And just Terry's teaching has been overwhelming. Great response. In fact, some of the Tzedakah time that we have tonight, three of the people have listened to the YouTube channel and have contacted me, Terry, just to give tzedakah. And then, of course, we have other tzedakahs that come in, but we appreciate them. We're going to mention them tonight. And then we had one from the radio that sent some tzedakah. And then others, we've had others that sent tzedakah in. But we're looking forward to a great teaching tonight, a great class. And if it's okay, I'm going to turn it over to you, Terry. Let you greet everybody and greet everybody in the Zoom room, and I will get ready for our tzedakah time.
All righty. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming back to our Wednesday night class. In our Zoom room here, of course, we've got Scotty and Thomas and Wella, Wendell, Frank, and Annie. Scotty's wife. Sorry, it's been a rough day for me. Been a long day, but I really want to encourage everyone to get your pen, your paper, however you take notes, because tonight I'm going to be giving you not only some passages to look at, I'm going to be giving you some things to write down so that you can go back and go over it, meditate about it, pray. Pray about, these things and study these things out. We're fixing to go into a very interesting study that some of you, I can guarantee, have not gone down this path. But it's been there since creation. It's nothing new. It's nothing added, but it is something, like the passage says, walk among the ancient paths, ask about the ancient paths. And tonight we're going to begin examining an ancient path. And so have your notepads and be ready and to take notes and ask questions as we go along or afterwards, however it's easiest for you. Scotty, you about ready? Hold on, let me just say, I got ahead of myself. I do want to greet everyone also in the Torah for Nations YouTube channel and the B'nai Noach Connection with Israel live stream in the group, and Power Faith Radio. I want to greet everyone here for the class tonight. Now, Scotty, are you ready?
Here I am. While Terry is greeting you, I want to just make a great suggestion. If you're watching on YouTube for the first time, give this video a thumbs up, this class a thumbs up. Go back and look at prior recordings, prior videos, and as Terry said tonight, he's going to start a new, if I can call it a series. Can I call it a series, Terry?
Well, it's going to be a new journey.
A new journey. That's great. A new journey. And so I want to challenge you that if you miss one of these nights, you can always go back on the recording and kind of catch up. Sometimes people get in the middle of the context of the conversation by waiting a couple of videos, and if they skip a couple, they're really not catching what's going on, and they kind of get a little frustrated. I don't understand that. I want to challenge you, if you're watching through these, and I'm going to try to, I've made a note right here, Terry, that like on the second, third, and fourth, I'm going to challenge each one, if that's their first time viewing this journey, now what'd you call it just then, Terry?
It's like a journey.
Okay, so I did it right, Terry. I did it right. So to go back and watch the first one, do binge watching and get caught up on that. Okay, here we go for our Sadaka time, and I'm kindly okay. Watching what's okay. We'll talk about that here in a minute, Thomas. So Sadaka is a great time. Love what Pesach said the other night. Sadaka isn't just about money. I've often said, and Terry, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong on this. A lot of people translate tzedakah as charity. Charity is somewhat maybe a weak translation, but there's nothing weak about charity. Charity can change. Did I say that right, Terry? Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, it is translated as charity, but it's also the word for righteous.
Righteous.
So that when you're giving charity, when you're doing it for the right reasons, not an ulterior motive, it can become a righteous act.
Yes, that is awesome. That is awesome. So okay, here we go tonight. We're going to do blessed memory of my wife's dad and mother, Ray and Nellie Garland. And I'm using this Sadaka box tonight. So Ray and Nellie Garland. Also a John Roberts. That's a husband of somebody we're going to talk about here in a minute. And in blessed memory of John Roberts. And then we have, let me get the page turned here. Always, we want to remember in our Sadaka time, Sally Justice. And so we're giving Sadaka for Sally tonight. Also, I'm going to do my best to pronounce this name correctly. Ilario and family. Did I do good or did I do good? Did I do it okay? I almost did good enough. I want to say it again, Wendell. Ilario and family. So we're giving Sadaka for them tonight. They were diagnosed with COVID, but I think they're out of quarantine. Is that what they said?
Well, they've come out. I know they've come out of, no one's sick or anything.
Okay.
I think that's what he was telling us the other night.
Yeah. So
they're testing negative now.
Great. Also, we're doing Sadaka time tonight for Thomas's mother. Thomas, can you give us your mother's name and just real quick give us an update on your mother?
Sheila Schaus. She went in for her biopsies today, where they took the tissue out of her lungs, and she ended up staying because her blood pressure and stuff. Doctor says it doesn't look too good, but still gonna wait for the results to come back.
Yeah. Okay, let's remember her tonight. Also, we're giving Sadaka tonight for Ethelene Moore. We're also giving Sadaka tonight for Tina Lyons. And as you all know, Rabbi Pesach had his Sunday night meeting this past Sunday, and we're giving Sadaka still for him for his continuous recovery from everything he's been through the past several months. And then also we're giving Betty Jean Roberts, that's the wife of the blessed memory of John Roberts. She is one that was listening and caught the teaching on Power Faith Radio. And Betty Jean, if you're listening tonight, we are giving the Sadaka for blessed memory of your husband and also for your strength through this time. Okay, let me turn the page here. Also, as always, somebody always sends money in Sadaka time for Amuela Asher and also for Thomas. We always have some Sadaka to give in your name. This isn't just Sadaka for you. We are giving Sadaka in your name as we do this. Maybe Terry can kindly explain that position, maybe not just whenever, but we're giving that for you. Also, Veronica Port. We always have Sadaka time for Veronica. We love you, Veronica, and look forward to the next time Veronica takes a 2-month journey and comes down to visit us. Also, someone sent blessings, Sadaka for blessings for Rabbi Pesach Sherbo and Shara, his wife. Did I pronounce her name correctly? Shara.
Shira.
Shira. So we're giving for that. Also, Jeremy Kibbe, tzedakah for him tonight. He has just give a brief thing. He has a mentor that he's kind of connected with, and they are helping him get some things going. So let's remember Jeremy Kibbe. Okay. My wife just came in here and handed me one. I feel like them people on TV, you know, where they. So my wife just come in here and handed me one. Oh yes, her sister Libby. We're just going to say it that, and her grandson, for my wife's sister Libby. We're giving tzedakah for them. And also, I have a birthday tzedakah to give tonight. We don't get too many people that send us birthday tzedakahs. We have a few from time to time. We catch them on Facebook, say happy birthday, and they send us tzedakah. So the birthday tzedakah is for someone who has a birthday tomorrow. And I know y'all looking at me, who's the name? Well, it's me. So tomorrow's my birthday, and I'm giving tzedakah tonight for my birthday, which is tomorrow. Okay, Terry. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. Terry, it's all yours. Take it away.
Oh, man. All right. Let's see here. Like I said, I hope you have your pens and paper, notepads, whatever it is you take notes. Tonight we are beginning, I'm going to call it a journey, not really a series, because we're going to be here a while. I'm just going to lace, when I put a title on it for the YouTube channel, I'm going to do like part 1, part 2. It's the best way to do it. We have had many questions over the last few months about the Noahide laws. And I'm not going to jump right into them because it's not where you need to begin. You need to begin at the beginning. Why and where and how they are before we get into the what they are. And so we're going to be doing quite a bit of foundation building to take you into an area where many of you have not really been before. Like I said, I'm not adding anything new. I'm not making this up. This stuff exists from the very week of creation. And then Israel, it was given to Israel at Mount Sinai in the Torah, where it was written down, where the Creator told Moses to write these things down, the things that had already existed. So we're going back to the first, and I'm going to start out with this statement from Rabbi Dr. Shimon Cohen. And I really like how he put this. He has a PhD in social philosophy, and some of his writings is very good. He lives in Australia. He's very active with the political systems in Australia, works with them in the issues of morality and helping the laws to be formulated to follow the morality that's been around, that's actually been around in the Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam for centuries. And for millennia, actually. And in our day and time, are like in the United States especially, but I know you watch the world news, morality is slipping out of our hands. And that's what really the divine laws is about morality, but we'll get to that on down the road. But Dr. Cohen says, he goes, we are at a crossroads now, and it is not only a virtue, but a necessity to examine the fundamental choice of first principles, which is at issue in our society and globally. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a journey into the examination of first principles. the things, the principles that the Creator put first in creation that has, I'm going to be honest, we pretty much ignored. People's chosen what they like out of it, but as a system to live by, it has been pretty much ignored by most mankind. And so we're going to be journeying into that, and we're going to be looking at some things and some passages that I don't think anyone's ever really seen them in the light that we're going to see them. We're going to be seeing them in the light of how the sages of Israel has taught us these things from the original language. We'll be looking at it in English and in the Hebrew. We're going to be looking at specific words and how what it means when you read it, just like you're reading a book, you don't get really what it is saying. But when you get into the Hebrew and seeing what the Hebrew is saying, and you examine it, it brings to light a very interesting point in studying the first principles. So if you want to write that down, we're going to be examining the first principles, and that's going to be ongoing for weeks now, because everything that we're going to be covering is the first principles of creation, the first principles given to man. And so it's time to go back and revisit, just like when you get a sports team that's hit a losing streak, what does the coach always do? He takes them back. If it's a basketball team, they practice dribbling, they practice passing. Baseball team, they practice throwing the ball, pitching, catching. They always go back to the first principles of that sport, because they got away from them. And when they got away from the first principles, they begin to lose. And that's what mankind's been doing for quite a while. We've been losing. We've had a bad losing streak here lately. And immorality is, or morality is wanting to be shoved out of our nations around the world. So, but the first one we're going to go to here is Genesis chapter 2. Now, write this down on your notepads as like a homework assignment, not that you're going to be turning in anything. What I want you to do is, when you got time this week, sit down and slowly read Genesis 1 and 2. And if any questions come up, write them down. Because Genesis 1 and 2 is very important. It's very important in this journey. It's very important to humanity. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, it says, "These are the products of the heaven and earth, which had already been given in their creation on the day when God made earth and heaven." Now, Scott, do you remember our little study on the word toiledot with Noah?
I do, but I don't.
Okay, this word is in Genesis chapter 6, where it talks about this is the generation of Noah.
Oh, yes.
He was a righteous, was a righteous and a moral man, and he walked with God. It's the word toledot. This it can be translated as generation. But here it's in this passage. These are the products. Here it's translated as products. And what is interesting here, when in the way this verse is written, it's talking about the sages uses an example of, it's not referring to the parents. It's referring to the children, the products of the parents. And so in this passage, these are the products of heaven. Everything's already been done. And so what we're going to be getting into is the products of heaven and earth. And I thought that was really interesting. It's not referring to the parents. It's referring to the children. And of course, with humanity, it deals with generations. Because it's the products of humanity. We're going to be looking at the passage on the day when God had made. We're going to be looking at the word that's translated as God here in a little bit, and what we can get out of this passage. First, we are going to look at this particular word right here down at the end where it says, and this is where the day when God had made, and it's the word Elohim. Now, most of the time when we're speaking this, we'll say even use the term Hashem, the name. But as my first teacher taught me, that when you're teaching, you can actually say the name Elohim, and you're not violating the second commandment of the 10. You're not taking his name in vain because you're teaching. And so for those that I know, some that are very strict, they would not use, there's another way that they say it, but if I said it, it would be confusion. And so, but we are talking about the name Elohim here. The word Elohim here, God, where it says where God had made, there's an aspect here that people just, we read over it. I mean, for most of my life, I've read these passages. If anybody does an annual Bible reading, starting in Genesis, they've read these things hundreds of times, and you just go right through it. But here in this passage, what we are learning here is that this name of the Creator is the attribute of divine justice. The name Elohim actually means judge or lawmaker. It means judge, or in a strict justice and strict judgment as well. He is the creator of the world, because it goes back to Genesis 1 verse 1. This is the name that's in Genesis 1:1 as the name of the Creator, the one who spoke everything into being. He spoke the light into being. He brought the animals and the plants and the earth, and he divided the waters amongst the waters above and the waters below, and brought up the land and separated the land from the waters. This is the name. This is the Creator. And why is that important to know that this is the Creator? Because again, his name means divine justice. It means he set forth law, the laws of nature. He's the one that brings all the law in, everything that, the earth. We talk about how the earth is tilted at a certain degree. If it was so a degree, a different way, it'd be closer to the sun, we would burn up. The Creator created all these laws of nature and set everything into place. So that's what this name means. When we read that on the day that when God made heaven and earth, this is the God of divine justice, divine law. He imposes order. He gives law and measures and sets the limits to all things. Just like when he set the limits on the water, there's a limit. If you've ever been to the beach, the water will come up so far and then it goes back out. It's not allowed. The water is not allowed to come any further. There's a boundary there that is set. There's a law. There's a divine law of separating the water and the land. Rabbi Hirsch says, it talks about now man, says, were it not for the free will of man, who is capable of straying from the right path, the world would not need mercy. See, now also in these verses is when you'll see in the English, the Lord God. That's Hashem Elohim, which I will not pronounce that name. We're not permitted to say that name because we don't know how it's pronounced, and we're not going to use that name in vain at all, because it's the name of mercy. And he tempers his justice with the mercy. But see, he gave man free will. The way it says here, the man has free will who is capable of straying from the path. If we didn't have the availability to stray, there would be no need for mercy. All of the rest of God's creatures, except for man, do not deviate from the paths assigned to them at creation. I hope I'm not going too fast here, because I really want you to grasp this, that all of creation, see, the oak tree has always been the oak tree, the pine tree, the cornstalk, the grass, the deer, the cow, according to their species. They have not deviated from the path since creation, except for man. Man deviated. We're going to get into that. So I guess what I want to try to say is we're looking at this first principle. This first principle, one of the first principles here is that man was given free will, and we have the opportunity to stray from the path. And because of that, mercy has to be brought in when we do stray from the path. And on the other side of that coin is the products of nature has not strayed. Only man. Only man has strayed. If man had not been created, if he had not been created of the products of heaven and earth, would hinge solely on the word creation. I'm not going to try to, wait a minute here. On the laws of growth. It says, the creation would hinge solely on the laws of growth and development implanted in them by the law-giving creator at the time of the creation. But with the creation of man, who is free and who is free to err, the need arose for mercy. God's rule of mercy educates man to his exalted purpose, sustains him in his world despite his errors, leads him back from deviance and fault to a path of truth and faithfulness, grants him a renewed strength for a new life and a new future, and he shapes it in accordance with the education that is needed for man. Mercy is a form of education. Though we make the mistake, mercy allows us to correct that mistake without having to answer to strict divine justice right off the bat. Now, what's interesting here, Scotty, have I been clear that I need to go over anything else before I go on?
Let me put us on just so it don't have my picture up there all the time. So I want to ask you to clarify something, because there's a talk going on on the radio now. So nothing deviated from the path. The oak tree does not desire to be a pine tree.
Right.
The pine tree does not desire to be a weeping willow.
Right.
Just throw those trees out there. Now, but they do not have free will.
They do not have free will.
Now, us having free will, but we still should be what he created us to be, correct?
Right. Exactly. Here in the message, what we're going to be getting from verses 4 and 5, when we get into 5 is the main passage that I want to get into. But as I studied this, it kept reverting back to 4. So I wanted to bring out what is mentioned in verse 4 here. If the trees, or let's just say nature, if the products of the earth, the nature, did not deviate from their path and they remained, but man has free will and he's given the opportunity to make the choice to stray. This begs the question, what is the path that man would be on if he did not stray? See, with the creation of, which we talked about Enosh and stuff, we're not going to get into tonight, but there came a time when idolatry came into the earth, and that's all that we've talked about it in the past. We'll talk about it in the future. But man deviated from his path. And in deviating from the path, that when Enosh began to in the generation of Enosh began to deviate from the path, they set up what we have now, the opportunity now, because it continued even after the flood. A short period of time, it started going right back. The world is full of religions, man trying to fix things himself. But the problem with that is none of these religions brings man back to the path he would have been on if he had not strayed. They're trying to get back to the path, but they're not going in the manner in which the Creator designed. Does that make sense? So the question is, if man had not erred, what would have been the path he would have remained on like the rest of creation had? And if you remember, we talked about Genesis chapter 1, verses 11 and 12, about the law of species after each kind. See, this all ties back into that. Man was set on earth to examine. He was made last. All the divine law was already set in place before man was brought into it. He was set into it last to look at it, to examine it, and to choose which way he would go. Would he stay on the path, or would he choose his own way? And that's talked about about Genesis 1, 11, and 12 that we've talked about in the past quite a bit on the divine law of species after each kind. So again, it begs the question. It says, if it was not so for man, free will for man, who is capable of straying from the right path, the world would not need mercy. So the question would be, what would be the right path? And that is the journey we're going to be on first principles. We're going to be examining the first principles of that path. Does that help any, Scotty? Or have you got any more questions? We can keep going. It doesn't matter.
No, that put the foundation for where you're going, and I know you're going to cover the as we journey to find this right path. See, I'm choosing my words delicately here.
See, there is a path for mankind since the day he was created.
Do you feel that a lot of people are searching for that path, but they do not know where that path is, so they're looking through other types of religious formats?
Right. We will be getting into that later, probably in a week or so, maybe next week. It depends on where we get to, because, and I'm just going to share this a little bit. You're going to be hearing again. The soul of man is part of the image of God that is in each one of us. And so, though this is a non-religious path, It is a spiritual path. And because man has a soul, it does search. It searches to connect to which and where it came from, and that is the Creator. But we're given challenges in life. We all make mistakes here and there. We think we'll go over here, we go over there. Life is a journey. And never put down where you've been, because it's part of what brought you to where you're at today. So never be ashamed of your past.
Terry, Thomas asked a very intriguing question on the chat. And I know you're probably going to maybe cover this, but did man mess his path up when he partook of the fruit? A lot of people say the apple, but it's the
we will be getting into that as a complete study of itself when we get a little bit further. We will be getting into that further down this path. Right now, what we're looking at is that there is a right path. There has been a right path. And the issue is that man strayed from that path. But the nature has not. Nature has remained the same. It's never deviated. Of course, it can't. It's not given the choice, but we're given the choice. We could have been like the oak tree. There's a path that the Creator gave. It's called Adam Rishon, the first man. And if he had stayed on that path, we would have been just like the oak or the cedar, whatever you can relate with, the grapevine, the apple tree, the grass, the wheat plant. Everything in creation has been given a divine law to establish its existence. And just like man, we were giving a divine law for its existence. But we were given the opportunity to make a choice to stray or not. That makes us different. That makes us different from anything else in creation. This mode of God's rule is already applied in the word that means to make, to shape, where it says in the passage, on the day when God made heaven and earth. The mode of God's rule is in that. Understand, it says, in the day when God made heaven and earth. When he made heaven and earth, he established a divine set of laws. And this divine set of laws that he made, it guides the development according to man's merits, and it educates him. And God created heaven and earth and subjected their development to law and order. As with the plant and animal life, man was also subjected to the development that was set in law and order. He intervenes, that's the Creator, Hashem, intervenes in this process, constantly shaping and guiding it in accordance with his purpose, which is to educate mankind. Therein, the physical world and the earth depend on the heavens. Here in the moral world order, for the sake of which the physical world exists, the heavens depends on the deeds of man. And that's this is beginning to lead us into verse 5. The heavens depends on the deeds of man. So this verse 4, these are the products of the heaven and the earth, which already have been given in their creation on the day when God made the heavens. Understand, Elohim, he is the authority. He designs, he sets forth the laws that nature and all of his creation operates by. Whether it be mankind, the grass of the field, or the orbits of the planet and the positions of the stars, all of that is set forth by divine order, divine law. It says this verse 4, which is an introduction to the history of the world, is also a protest against the deification of nature and a refutation of the notion that there is no connection between nature and morality, between the physical development in the world and the moral path of man. The name Hashem Elohim, as we've talked about before, opens our eyes to God's physical and moral order in the world, to the ways of God in nature and in history. So in verse 4, we learned that Elohim, he is the creator. He's the one that set forth the laws that all creation is governed by. It was all set in place before man was brought on the scene. Man was brought on the scene to make a choice, to look at these laws, the laws of nature and how things worked, and decide which side of the fence he was wanting to stand on. And the heavens depends on the deeds of man. Verse 5. All the growth of the field was not yet on earth, and the grasses of the field had not yet grown, for God had not yet sent the rain upon the earth, and man was not yet there to work the soil. Now, I know in some of your translations it says not all the trees of the field was not yet. Some English translations uses growth, some uses trees or vegetation, was not yet on the earth. Looking back at 4 and coming into 5, it is taught to us that the development of the world after its creation depends on man and his conduct. See right here, the growth of the field was not yet on the earth. The grasses in the field had not yet grown, for God had not sent the rain upon the earth, for man had not been there, was not created yet to work the soil. Man's conduct, the creation depends on man's conduct. The heavens depends on the deeds of man. We're going to be getting into this. This is all part of these first principles. We're going into an area of study that most of us have never been in. And looking at these first passages of the book of Genesis and what the Creator put there for us. Hence, the narrative now returns to the moment at which the creation had come to a temporary standstill, waiting its completion and subsequent development by man. See, the creation now was waiting for man. Rain had not been sent, and the earth had not been toiled because man was not there yet. And so you may be asking your question, what does rain have to do with the issue of man? Has a lot to do, as we're going to see this. The earth develops only for man's sake, for the sake of his moral work on earth. If we look, and we're going to be getting into stuff here at the end, but I want to drop you a hint right here, because it says the earth develops only upon for the sake of his moral work on the earth. the earth reacts accordance to the morality of man's work, or the work of man's morality. Let me put it that way. The earth reacts to the work of man's morality. Man, who is the master of the earth, is directly in the service of God. Indirectly, he is in the service of the earth, for God put him to work here for his purpose. Let's look at this. Let's go back and look at verse 5 again. All the growth of the field was not yet on earth, and the grasses of the field has not yet grown, for God had not yet sent rain upon the earth, and man was not yet there to work the soil. When we are on the path of morality, when we're on the path of obedience, we are in service. Service is an action word. Has nothing to do with faith. It has nothing to do about belief. Service is about action, doing. Man was not on the earth yet to work the soil, and that is a service of God and a service of the earth. Now I'm going to mess this guy's name up because I have a hard time with this guy's name. But anyhow, Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik has something very interesting to say about this passage. And there's something about this passage that I have heard for years. But he brings out what I have heard. He shows, see, where the sages gets it from. At the time I'd heard these things, I hadn't been taught yet how the sages came to what it was saying. And I think you're going to find this very interesting, because here's where it ties into morality and the morality of man. Now, I'm going to read this. He translates it like a lot of English translations. Now no trees of the field was yet on the earth, neither did any of the herb of the field yet grow, because Hashem God had not brought rain upon the earth. Now, Rashi, some people may have, if you've been around here long enough, you heard me say Rashi. That's an acronym for one of the great Torah scholars of Israel. I mean, one of the great Torah scholars of Israel. Rashi comments that though vegetation was created on the third day, the plants remained in the earth and did not sprout, because man had not yet been created to pray for the rain, which would allow the vegetation to grow. Now, did you hear that? Man had not prayed for the rain. Remember, it says the rain had not been sent yet, because man had not prayed for it, because man was not there yet. Not only to work the soil, but to pray for rain. And so Rashi, he translates it as where it says, now no tree of the field. He translates it as prayer for the field. There was no prayer for the field. Now, where can he get, how do you get prayer out of this word? The word in the Hebrew is siach, that's translated as trees or growth. It's translated as trees here in Genesis, siach, or the growth. The sages point to, now write this in your notes, Psalms 102:1. Psalms 102:1 says this: a prayer of the afflicted man when he faints, and in front of Hashem, he pours forth supplications. Now, the word supplication in Psalms 102, verse 1 is, and I'm going to pronounce it in my Ashkenazi because it's just easier. It's how I learned to read Hebrew, is sekhoi. Sekhoi. The root word for supplication here is siach, the word that's here in Genesis. It's translated as tree. It is translated as supplication here. That he pours forth his supplications. That man had not yet prayed for the rain, because the word siach also denotes prayer. So the verse could read as follows: because as of yet there was on earth no prayer for rain for the field. There was no prayer on earth yet. When man had not been brought on the earth, prayer didn't exist either. So prayer goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 2, verse 5. The vegetation of the field that was created on the third day could not break the surface because God had not yet allowed the rain to fall upon the earth. He did not allow it to fall because man had not yet prayed for it. Now, God grants rain for the sake of man's work on the earth. True, the formation of the rain depends on the laws of nature, whose source is from, as we learned earlier, Elohim. But when, where, and how the rain should fall is decided by God's moral rule. How does man's prayer, how does man's morality being him acting according to the divine laws of morality, how does that play an effect with rain? How does that play an effect with the condition of the earth and the condition of man? We are given the example in Deuteronomy chapter 11. We're going to Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 13 through 17. Hold on, let me make sure. Yeah. I got it highlighted here. Actually, I'm going to back up to verse 11. I'm going to back up to verse 11. I'm going to go Deuteronomy 11 through 17. But the land, this is God speaking to Israel. This is speaking strictly to Israel. He's not speaking to the nations. But the land to which you cross over to possess is a land of hills and valleys. From the rain of heaven will it drink water, and land that Hashem your God seek out. The eyes of Hashem your God and always are upon it, from the beginning of the year to the ending of the year. It will be then, if you will hearken to my commandments that I command you today, to love your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your souls, then I shall provide rain for your land in its proper time, the early and the latter rains, that you may gather your grain and your wine and your oil. I shall provide grass in your field for your cattle, and you will eat and will be satisfied. Beware for yourselves, lest your heart be seduced and you turn astray. Remember, we talked about turning astray from the path, and serve the gods of others. and prostrate yourself to them, then the wrath of Hashem will blaze against you, and he will restrain the heavens so there will be no rain, and the ground will not yield its produce. Now, this is to Israel, the land, and Israel, the people. So what does it have to do with us? The relationship between rain and morality was assigned to the Jewish nation and to the land of the Torah. Israel is called the land of the Torah. That is where they were to keep the laws of God. They were given to the Jewish nation in the land of the Torah, the divine law. See, this is the divine law. But it is neither an exceptional nor an unnatural relationship. Rather, this is the original relationship that was intended for man and his earth. They are destined to resume this relationship when mankind will submit to the divine laws of morality. See, Israel was created to be a priestly nation. They were given a land to live on. Their example of obedience to God is the example of the obedience for mankind in the land that they were given. I live in the United States. This is where I was given to live. No different from a Jew that was given the land of Israel, and he lives in one of the cities of Israel. But they are the example for all of us. It wasn't just meant for them. When we fail to keep the divine laws of morality, which the laws we are given that we'll be getting into are the divine laws of morality for all mankind in any culture, any language, any race, any nation. They don't deviate. They don't specialize. The laws that are given to Israel specialize to them because they're priests. And as the Creator shows us here, if you do not hearken unto the path that I gave you, I will restrain the rains. I will restrain the growth of the fields. Now, I want to drop something on you. Back in 2011, I wrote a blog called Nature and Man. I need to update it. But it concludes with the issue that when man tarries in his service of the Creator, the creation tarries in the service of man. Remember, verse 5, the earth was waiting for man to pray for rain and to toil the soil, to toil in it, to work it. That is the earth he was given. And when the morality of man goes away from, when we reject morality and choose our own ways and we go away from the path of God, then God says he restrains the rains. So if you're praying for rain, and this is like a spiritual example, metaphor, if you're praying for rain, but if you're not on the path, the prayer is not valid. Because why would the Creator grant you rain and crops when he uses the example with Israel, that if they don't do this, then this doesn't happen for them? That's the same thing for us in our lands. Now, in our world, I'm going to throw something at you. Now, in our world, you should think about this. What is a major subject that is going across all of our countries right now? Climate change. Man is at fault. Man has used all these fossil fuels, and man has done this, and man has done that. Yes, man is at fault. But the climate change is not because of fossil fuels. It's because we deviated from the path. And therefore the earth deviated from us. We can stop using all the fossil fuels in the world. We can go back to using, not burning gases and oils and completely shut that down 100%. But until we return back to the commandments of the Creator, the earth will never stop going against us. This is why this is not a religion. This is life. These divine laws of morality is everyday life for every human being on the earth. Has nothing to do with belief and faith and religion. The earth is waiting on us. I mean, we read that right here. He says they are destined to resume this relationship when mankind will submit to the divine laws of morality. And when we do that, the rains will come, the crops will come, all of this mess will come. It even, there's a part here I didn't get into, but it actually talks about the morality of man affecting the atmosphere of the earth. And that's exactly what's happening is climate change is about returning back to the Creator and the path that was set at creation for man. And that is the divine laws of morality. Without that, and I'll just list them. I'll go ahead and list them because we're going to be getting to them. We're going to be getting into the details of what they are and everything. And like I said, it's not a religion. It's not binding, but this is the desired work that the Creator wanted man to cling to for the sake of not only man, but for the sake of the creation as well. But there's seven categories. First category is the prohibition of idolatry, which we've covered here a little bit tonight, that the Creator is the divine source of all. No one else but Him, the one God of Israel. He's the only source. There is no other source for life. And then, of course, the prohibition of blasphemy, how you communicate with your Creator. Then you have the divine law, the prohibition of theft, the prohibition of murder, the prohibition of forbidden sexual relations, the prohibition of the seventh law, the seventh one given to Noah, the prohibition of every chai, the not eating meat taken from a living animal, which teaches us on how we take care of the creation. Everything's covered. And then the law, then the setting up of just courts, so that justice, according to these laws, could be merited out to the people. And if you're a God-fearing person, you don't have to worry about any of the court system, but it's there for those who decides to want to stay off the path. But those are the categories of the divine moral laws that man was to cling to in the beginning. So write down on your paper that the Creator is the authority. He is the authority of His creation. He alone has the authority to impose His law, His order, and His limits to His creation. No one else has this authority. All creation does not deviate from the Creator. I love this section here where it says, I went past it there. That if it had not been created, talking about mercy, the earth by itself would solely be hinged on the fact of the laws of growth and development implanted in them by the law-giving Creator at the time of creation. the earth does not need mercy because it's not deviated from the path. Only man needs mercy. He needs to be given the opportunity, and that's what the mercy is the opportunity to correct his direction. That's in Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, which we will get into later. See, everything is at the first principles. Genesis 1 and 2. When you read it and you look at it, there's something you will not find. God did not create religion. He created divine law that runs and operates all of his creation. Then the cap, or I guess you can say the cap of his creation, man. He gives him free will to choose whether he will stay on the path or go and find another path, or most likely, as we'll see, he created his own paths instead of staying on the one that was desired and designed for him. Scotty, we got anything going on there? Anything we need to discuss?
No, Terry, you have covered that. I want to ask you.
If I need to clarify anything,
No.
I've got a lot in my head, and sometimes I'm not as clear as to you that as I am when I'm thinking. I'm trying to.
I think you
bring
presented
it
it perfectly. I want to ask you about, there is a text that says that we are to till the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But we need rain in order for that purpose to produce. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
And if so, how do we what would that prayer be like? What would that, or is it more of doing our moral positions, being who we're supposed to be, that produces the rain?
It's actually both, because those of us in the nation, see, Israel's commanded to pray. We're not commanded to pray. Actually, we're not in the divine moral code that the Creator gave us. Prayer is not a commandment like thou shalt pray. There is, in other words, a thou shalt pray for the land of Israel, because they're the priest. We have the opportunity and really an obligation, not a commandment, but an obligation. And it's insinuated that we do pray, because when King Solomon prayed the dedication of the first temple, we were included. Those are the nations. He says, when those not of your people come here and look in this direction and pray, he asks for the Creator to hear our prayers. The temple is known. One of the names of the temple is the house of prayer for all nations. So it's insinuated that we do pray. And so since we're not commanded, the Torah scholars and the Torah sages that help the nations learn their place says the least amount of prayer that we should pray is for our needs when we have needs. So if you're a farmer, what do you need? You need rain. Well, I'm not a farmer, but you know what? I still need rain so the farmers can grow the food that I'm going to eat. So I have a need to pray for rain. And praying for rain and morality in the Torah has a connection. When we deviate from the commandments, we are leaving the morality that we were given. When we deviate from the commandments that we were given, we see that God says, keep my commandments. And so people read, well, I'm going to keep this. No, you have to be taught which commandments actually are yours. They are segregated. The commandments are segregated to certain groups of people. And that's something that needs to be learned. You just can't pick it up, just like there are commandments for women. Well, God said, da, 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 da. Well, if I'm a man, how am I going to observe the commandments toward the monthly cycle of a woman? It's a commandment. If I don't do it, I guess I'm breaking the commandment. No, it was given to a woman. There are commandments given to the priesthood. There's commandments given to the Levites. There were commandments given to the regular everyday Jew. There's commandments given to those who do business. There are commandments that are given to those who are farmers. The commandments of tithing goes to the farmers, because tithing is based on the product of the vegetables and the fruits of the land of Israel. And there are commandments given to like the priests that take care of the everyday work of the temple. In the day of the temple, there were priests who cleaned the ashes off the altar. If a normal, regular, everyday Jew says, well, that's a commandment of God, I'm going to run up there and clean the ashes off, he just violated the commandments. It wasn't his commandment to do. He wasn't assigned that one. So we have to learn. Israel helps us. That's why it says in Jeremiah and Isaiah and Zechariah, the prophets is full of the nations coming to the people of Israel saying, teach us. And they will teach us what commandments are assigned to us. And what we're going to be sharing in this path is the commandments that God has assigned to every one of us, regardless of what nation we live in, what culture we are from. Scotty and I have been taught these, and we're going to be sharing them. We have been assigned things. And by us returning to the assignment we were given, we're returning to the path that we talked about. If you can stray from a path, what would be the path that you would be on if you didn't stray? I think that's a good question.
Yeah, good question.
And that's what we're going to be examining. Well, we're going to be examining in this study is finding that path that we would have been on if we had not strayed. And I know this is going to be new for a lot of people, and that's fine. It's going to be challenging. That's fine. We need to be challenged. We all need to be challenged.
Yeah.
I think, Scotty, what was it that you posted something today, I think, dealt with that subject about being challenged.
I done forgot what it was. I talk and post so many things.
I know. I saw it today when I was at lunch. But anyhow, go ahead, Scotty.
Well,
did I answer that okay?
Yes, you did.
My head gets out there. And well, am I still on the ship, or am I floating off in space somewhere?
You have not been transported yet.
I haven't been transported out into space.
Yeah. So
I hadn't been space dock or whatever you want to call it, space dock, where they open the space door and kick you out.
You and Amuela talk more of the Star Trek stuff, and I'm just sitting right here down in the engine room. I don't know where you're going. I just know we're moving. So that's so.
Did I answer it? Did I take rabbit trails around the questions that was asked on the radio?
No. I think you did a great job. As always, I'm for one going to say I really appreciate you taking the time to put all that together. You just don't start throwing that together an hour before the program. You're probably already studying and preparing for next week's. If I know you.
Well, actually, I didn't even go in the direction that I thought I needed to go. Because if you remember, I talked to you a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Then I was in here Saturday night, and wait a minute, what is tonight? No, I was in here last night because I've got some of my new books in the mail that I didn't expect to get in yet. And so I looked up these passages in there, and it really helped. One of the things I really enjoyed is this one right here. I've got this on Genesis, but I bought one on the book of Psalms, and it's I know those on the radio can't see. And what it is it's an interlineal. Let me see if I can. It has the Hebrew and then the English underneath it. And so when I'm sitting here,
let me put you back on speaker view. Show that one more time, Terry, so I can bring you up.
We get the light right there.
Okay.
Hold on here. Let me 102 right there.
There you go. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm sitting here and I'm reading Rabbi Hirsch's, and everybody knows that's listened to me a while. I love Rabbi Hirsch's commentary because he gets into the words. He'll take a word here in Genesis chapter, 5, and he'll go all the way and find that same word in Psalms 102 and help you understand what that word is a little bit more, and actually brings more depth to the meaning of the passage in Genesis by seeing how it was used, even by King David. And so I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this and I'm just like, I'd heard this for years, but now I got to see where the Torah sages got the statement that man had to pray for the rain. The prayer for the rain had not come because there was no man. Without man, there was no prayer and no toil on the earth. And so part of the duty of man is prayer and work. And so I was screaming. My wife, she's and I'm like, I love it. I love when I get in the study. And that was last night about 12 o'clock. So go ahead, Scotty.
Took me a minute to realize where I was, Terry.
I just get excited when I get into my studies.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it so much, Terry, and I know everybody else does. Does anybody in the? Go ahead, Terry. What was you going to say?
Amuel is now taking us over from being Trekkies to Whovians because it is a timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly path. Sorry, guys. So Amuel and I, we're sci-fi nuts.
So, all right. Well, am I bringing us to our descent?
Yeah, you can bring us to a descent. And like I said, is there any questions or comments before we go? Because I know I dropped a bombshell tonight.
No,
I don't want to leave a mess laying there.
I don't think so. I'm going to try to tell quickly. Dewey, Ori, and Wendy over on and Zacchaeum is over on the YouTube channel, and then we had people come in and out of the Facebook, so I really don't know too many who they are, but we're so glad that they spent time with us tonight, and we've got quite a few listening on the radio tonight. We're so glad they're spending time with us. We're glad you all in the Zoom room. Frank had to restart his computer, so he had to go out and he's listening by way of YouTube. So, but Terry, am I ready to bring it to a close?
I just want to ask everyone just to hang in there with us. I know some of this may be some new ground you haven't been in. It was new ground for me, and our thoughts and theologies sometimes need to be challenged. And when we come back to the original Torah, to the beginning in Genesis, there's so much in Genesis that has been ignored because we did not know it was there. It wasn't taught to us. And so it's not an ignoring on purpose. It's just how we were brought up.
Right.
So just hang in there with us. Ask questions. Ask questions. Just hang in there with us, and you'll begin. This will start making a lot more sense. I just wanted to in a nutshell tonight, to bring them to understand that the Creator is the authority, and sometimes, well, not sometimes, for the most part, we as mankind have neglected the authority of the Creator. We've lost the point of understanding and actually sensing in our soul the awe of His authority.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to hopefully bring a little bit about that this whole path is by the authority of the Creator, and within that is the divine law of morality, and it connects with not only our connection with the Creator, but our connection with the earth. If we get disconnected by not doing what we're supposed to be doing with the Creator, we become disconnected with the earth. And that is the true issue of climate change on this planet.
Yes.
Go ahead, Scotty, you can bring us down.
Okay. Listen, at the beginning of the class tonight, we did the tzedakah. I forgot to say that this class meeting tonight is dedicated to all those names that we brought forth. Now, I also want to give a special thanks. We have a lot of people that send tzedakah, and we don't, if you send it for somebody, we don't mention your name. If you would like your name mentioned, you can, if you're sending the tzedakah for you personally, yes, we mention your name. But there are others that send tzedakah for somebody else, and we don't mention your name. If you would like your name mentioned, just give me a thumbs up, and I'll just give you a thank you for sending the tzedakah. In fact, I may next week, Terry, bring up a few names that have sent us tzedakah and tzedakah, and just dedicate the class to them. And I think that would be great, because there's some people that's really faithful in sending that tzedakah. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot. We have people that send $1 at a time. And
it's not about the amount.
Right. I know that you're going to get into that in future classes. I feel that you are. I don't want to direct you there tonight, but
what I'll probably do is I may connect this when we get into the individual studies of the categories. This would be a good thing to discuss along with the sub rulings of theft, the prohibition of theft, because it will connect with that one. So help me remember. That would be a good place for that.
And if I may also say that, as Terry goes through these categorical positions, these categorical responsibilities, don't think that one class is going to cover one categorical position. It will go through a few classes just on each one of them. Am I saying that correctly, Terry?
Yes, because technically in Genesis chapter 9, this divine moral code that is the path that we're supposed to be on was made into an eternal covenant in Genesis chapter 9 for the nations, for actually the world. The Jews are obligated to do these as well. Actually, these 7 categorical moral codes is the foundation of the 10 commandments. And so, they're eternal. So that doesn't mean we can study them for eternity and we'll still be behind.
Right. Right. All right, Terry, again, thank you so much for the teaching tonight. I want to thank everybody who came in on Torah for the Nations YouTube channel, and also those of you that came in through B'nai Noach Connection with Israel. I want to tell you that I want to apologize. Sometimes there are people that try to come in the chat rooms and try to create havoc. That's why we have Amuela and Thomas watching those, and when they're brought to our attention, we quickly remove you from the chat. I'm just going to say it like that. We do the best I can, because we got people that are here to learn, and we're not, if I can be so bold, we're not going to do petty arguments and stuff on.
Can I drop one little thing?
Yes.
This is going to be another one of those things. I don't think some have heard this before, is we are going to strive, and this is according to the sages of Israel, we're going to strive to be like the students of Aaron, Moses' brother. The students of Aaron were pursuers of peace.
Yeah.
And so that is, when we say stuff like what Scotty's bringing about, it's because we are pursuing peace and not debate, not argument. We're desiring the peace of the Creator.
Yeah. I like what Amuela's doing. Love.
There you go.
So,
My fingers are too short. I don't know.
yeah.
Do that.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for spending this time with us tonight. Remember, Rabbi Pesach, I believe he's going to probably do this next Sunday night. We'll let you know, hopefully, between now and Sunday. And remember, next week, 8 p.m., that's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. New York time is what we say here. And please come back, be with us.
Bring your questions if you have any.
Bring your questions. As Amuela, I didn't put it in this time, but Amuela said, I'm coming with my pen and paper. So bring your pen and paper, write down notes. If you're watching this and you were not in on the live program, you can still send us your questions. You can do it through Facebook. You can send it straight to me. Just find us on Facebook and send it to us, and we'll do our best to get those to Terry. We'll kindly present them, and very enjoyable, very enjoyable. Thank y'all so much. We'll see you next time right here on Torah for the Nations and B'nai Noah Connection with Israel.